guys, Brian here from Starlite Pulp. Hope everybody's well out there. And this is episode number, I believe it's 26 or 27. And I have Patrick Zuchowicki with me. And hopefully I pronounced that right. And he
You
is the
pronounced it right, yes.
excellent. And he's the founder of the 29 Palms Book Fest. Also owns the Desert General out in 29 Palms, very cool store. And so we're going to talk a few minutes today about the upcoming book fest that's coming in the fall and kind of what you can expect there. So Patrick, we're entering the second year of the 29 Palms Book Fest at this point. So where did the idea come from to start one there to begin with?
Well, the idea came from getting to know the history of 29 Palms and learning. My wife and I have had a house here for over 20 years. One of the very first places we went to when we came here was the 29 Palms Old Schoolhouse Museum. That
Mhm.
has a rich collection of stories about the pioneers who came here, who lived here, and learning every day more and more about the history of 29 Palms made us want to maybe organize some kind of an event around this rich heritage. And because there wasn't any book festival around in the high desert, we figured that there was an opportunity to fill that gap on one hand, and on the other hand, really bring out those stories as well as other popular literary genre.
Okay, cool. And yeah, it's funny because we find ourselves right now in a time where, and I know, we both you and I remember a very different time, but in terms of bookstores and literary events and things like that, they're fewer and farther between at this point. They're harder to come by. LA, I remember when I was a kid, I grew up in LA, there were bookstores all over the place. The old expression, you couldn't swing a dead cat without heading bookstore, especially a used bookstore. And now they're tough to come by. And I know that out where you guys are, obviously Desert General, you guys carry a good amount of books out there, which is great. And then there's Space Cowboy books and there's Raven books.
Raven
Yeah,
bookstore, yeah.
Raven. So there's a few, which is great because like going down to the Palm Springs area, which I'm in a lot, there's there's the one bookstore that's pretty new there, and that's kind of it. Unless you go to an antique store or something like that, which carries some, boy, it is tough. So it's good that you guys have kind of come to the forefront to bring something literary to the desert out there. So last year I was there. We had a table I read with the group with Todd Goldberg, Craig Clevenger, and a bunch of others, and that was a lot of fun. And that was a one-day event. But this year, you guys are progressing it a little bit and moving it forward. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, last year was what we really wanted to establish is the fact that we could indeed hold a book festival here in 29 Palms. So
Sure.
we decided to aim low, make sure that we had enough traction over a 1 day festival, and yet enough activities during that day to justify the idea of moving to a 2 day event that would not only attract locals or other high desert residents, but also overnight visitors from Palm Springs and possibly from LA. So our objective this year is indeed to expand the festival's footprint and add more activities and a bigger a wider a wider offering so that we can attract people from indeed from LA and other places.
Excellent. And so what I know that you guys have had some you guys have already started the newsletter you guys have that you send out, and then also you've had not necessarily an event or two so far, but some meetings and things like that, right? With the community and with writers. And then you have another one tomorrow that's a reading. Is that right?
Yes, well, the idea also is to, to keep the momentum going all year round. And as you know, there are a lot of local authors. There are a lot of things happening in the high desert. So what we wanted is really to harness that energy, that creativity, and create what we call the off 29 Palms Book Festival program, which are a series of different events. What we're going to be doing tomorrow, the Desert Literary Showcase, is going to be a regular meeting of local authors who will be reading their books. There's going to be music as well, and we're going to repeat that on a regular basis so that these authors could get more visibility. Obviously, during the festival, they will have a lot of visibility. We launched a month ago the 29 Palms Silent Book Club, which we're going to be organizing every month. The next edition is at the end of May. And that brings together book and reading enthusiasts. It's a special model. You don't you bring the book you want. You have 1 hour to read whatever you want, and then another hour to discuss and talk about the book that you're being reading. The first event was very successful. We also organize a book lounge. We had a book lounge a week ago. Also, the Journal of the Plague Years with Susan Zalkin, with Paul Colum. There was so we try to kind of like package events throughout the year and give them the feel and the look and feel of what we think is the personality of our festival.
Okay. Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because you brought up the the silent book club, and I actually didn't know what that was. So that's interesting. I've seen those mentioned, and I was like, how do you have a book club where everybody's silent? So thank you for explaining that.
Well, it's a very, it's a popular. I mean, we didn't invent that. It's
Mhm.
a local friend of ours who suggested that we try to look into this, and they have like about 900 different chapters across the world,
That's cool.
and it's very interesting because the concept is not as when you're part of a book club, usually you have to read a book and you have to comment on it, whereas there, you can bring whatever book you want and then talk about it if you feel like it. But it worked very well for the first edition.
Very cool. So I've spent a decent amount of time out there in terms of not only the Palm Springs area, but certainly the 29 Palms, Joshua Tree area, and Yucca Valley, et cetera. And one of the things that people who haven't been out there don't realize is it's got such a unique group of folks that live out there. It's really interesting. I actually spent a lot of time, believe it or not, out at the Marine Corps base over the years, and you have this amazing combination out there of like a bunch of jarheads with a lot of artists and hippies and desert folks kind of all mixed up together into this very kind of unique little culture out there.
And
Um,
military personnel.
absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned earlier that you have had a house out there for 20 years. So how have you seen over 20 years? How have you seen the personnel that's out there kind of change?
Well, the city has like it has changed and yet has kept over the especially in the last say 5 6 years since COVID hit. It has kept its essence. It has kept its strong personality. The history of the city proves shows that you have here. People who went through difficulties, who came here not by choice but by necessity, worked hard, and you can still sense that kind of philosophy, if I may say so.
Sure.
The fact that you have a marine base not too far. We interact a lot with soldiers who very young have traveled the world. We speak with people. In a past life, I was a traveling salesman selling TV and film content in many different countries, and I often amazed to see that these young kids have traveled the world, know more about the world than a lot of people. So it is an interesting community, and that remembers its heritage, that hasn't forgotten. That museum I mentioned earlier is plays a big role in it, and we want to play also a certain role by bringing out not only those old stories, but those new, fresh stories that come out from these new exiles, part-time residents, new residents, and old timers who also have stories to tell, but they haven't had an opportunity to do so up until now.
Gotcha. And I believe it might be through Desert General. I'm not sure. It might be through Desert General. It might be your own project, but I believe that you are trying to get interest in filming out there too. Is that right?
It is right. It's through the festival.
Okay.
That's my background. I come from. I worked in the entertainment industry for
Mhm.
35 years. I come from sales, and when I see and I read stories, I always
Sure,
instinctively
sure,
look at try to figure out if that story could be adapted for the big or the small screen.
sure, sure.
And there are quite a few of them that we've come across during the festival that we think could become could be brought in front of producers, of development executives looking for new stories, and most specifically stories that could be shot over here
Yeah.
in and around 29 Palms in the desert. There was a positive effect of the COVID is that a lot of talent, production talent, writing talent from LA moved out here
Right.
permanently or half time. So you have a reservoir of people who are in the industry, want to stay here, be able to do, and you also have great stories. So we're trying to bridge these festival stories with production people, development executives looking for new narratives, and rather than just simply bringing the books to them, we're also going to do a little bit of legwork, identifying the right holders, giving already a couple of indication in terms of locations where those films or documentaries could be shot. So that's our intention. It's really to bring to bring to the attention of production people in LA the few stories that we think could make it to the screens to the
Okay,
screen.
yeah. Yeah, I see that. And last year, a friend of ours here at Starlight is Daniel Pine, who we've published now a couple times in the review. He's got a story in the new review as well. And he's obviously been in Hollywood for a long time. He's directed Where's Marlowe and was a showrunner for Bosch and has written numerous screenplays and stuff like that. And I know we talked a little bit while we were out there last year, and he's a great guy. But yeah, is it have you gotten feedback from Hollywood types in terms of getting out there?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Daniel because when I read his book before he came to the festival, I thought that this was a great film. Then when I became acquainted with Daniel and found out that 29 Pounds was originally a screenplay before being a book, and he's written big films that when I was younger were big, Some of All
Yeah.
Fears, the Last Manchurian Candidate, all the Bosch
Pacific
episodes,
Nights.
Pacific Nights. So he's a very talented screenplay writer. So when I read his play, the screenplay, which was written 30 years ago, and I said, that screenplay today, what's the most valuable is the screenplay, and one written by Daniel Pine has a lot of value. So yes, we did approach not only producers. We're packaging in this project that's going to be hopefully the first project that we can bring out, where that links a festival book to a project in development. And yes, Danielle is indeed a great author, and he reminds me of those John Dow's movie from the 90s.
Mhm.
Like the
Mhm.
last. So he's yeah. I'm glad that you brought him up. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, no, I like Daniel quite a bit, and the book you're talking about, by the way, I love. It's literally called 29 Palms. For those
Yeah.
that don't know, it's called 29 Palms, and it is it's a noir crime journey out here or out in 29 Palms, and it's a blast. Um, and so yeah, we're looking to do something with Daniel. I hope that he can make this year. That would be good.
We hope so, because if he makes it, and we very much hope we have a few. I mean, we've been working very hard on this project, because we would like to be able to be in a position to make an announcement at the upcoming festival.
Cool. So yeah, so the whole area out there, the desert has a real kind of reputation, I guess, for being very artist friendly, right? And here you and your wife moved out there after being in LA, and you opened up the Desert General, which has you've got art out there, you've got jewelry, you've got books, you've got all sorts of stuff. Where did the idea come from to start your own shop like that?
Well, the idea came from my wife, who always wanted to, open up a store with an eclectic mix of products that
Mhm.
we first use, that we know,
Sure.
and products that you can attach a story to. So we are also. Uh, Collectors of 60s pictures and of old books. So we like old books, we like rare books. We've always been, and so my wife came up, when we saw this space, we said, okay, let's do a place where we can have gifts, novelties, art, and books. And the book section has
Hmm.
expanded thanks to the festival, has also expanded thanks to the fact that we have a friend of mine, Stephen Liss, is curating our bookstore, meaning that we have a mix of old book and used books that
Sure.
really works well. We've sold close to 2,000 books since last
Excellent.
September, which is a bit. And we also make hats. We make hats with actually we work with a hat maker who
Hmm.
lives here in Buena Valley. She's a retired fashion designer, and we developed a hat that we call the desert hat,
Hmm.
made out of canvas, that we also sell very well. So there is the Desert General. It's my wife's baby, and
Hmm.
what I get out of it is, like, every day we interact with local people who tell us about stories, who sometimes who happen to be writers, who happen to be exiles from. So it's a great place where to collect information and to gather news.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what it seemed like to me. And you've got some really cool shops right next to you too, in that little area. In fact, having spent a decent amount of time out there, it seems like what main street, what main drag is that's on?
Highway 62.
Oh, so it's right on the. Oh, okay. So
It,
so on Highway 62, that little like 2, 3, 4 block area of 29 Palms, that's really a cool area right now. I
well,
mean,
it's downtown 29 Palms, so it's still it's a work in progress. Let's put it this
mhm,
way. But we've been here for 18 months. We see more traffic. We see more tourists all of a sudden coming to 29 Palms because they understand that there is an entrance to the park. There are a couple more restaurants. So this downtown, what this downtown area needs now to really do is to act like a downtown area, to be open for business from Monday to Friday to begin
sure.
with, and maybe over the weekends. So that's really the issue, is to really, we cater. We're open 7 days a week. We cater
Mhm.
to locals and tourists, but the local community is open for business 5 days a week to begin with when they come to downtown, and But otherwise, everything is indeed progressing over here.
Yeah, yeah. No, you guys have your shop. You've got those shops next to you. There's like some artisan shops. There's thrift stores. There's that used record store. There's some really cool stuff there. So yeah.
Good read. There are plenty of good reasons to stop. The first main reason is that we have the best parking lot on Highway 62. You,
There you
you know
go.
you don't have to risk your life crossing the highway,
I
or
would.
if it's not or risk encountering a coyote when you look for a car at night. So it's
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
it's an important point.
Exactly. So last year, like I said, I was there. It was a 1 day event. Had a lot of fun. We showed up a little late. That was our fault, but but we had a lot of fun. But this year, so last year you had some panels, right?
Yep.
That were going on at like the Civic Center area. And then you had authors and labels with tables and things like that. Then you had the general store, you had some signings, and then there was the reading later on, and that was a 1 day event. So for this particular upcoming event, the 2 day event, um what kind of expansion or other events can people kind of expect?
Well, number one, we are going to be holding more activities at the 29 Palms Community Center, where we held our live sessions last year. It is a
Mhm.
great space. So we're going to have there a book tabletops for independent publishers and authors, a section with those tabletops, a section for book signings. So rather than having book signings all over the place like we had last year, it's going to be everything will be there. There's going to be a section called the Young Readers Zone that we're organizing with a company called Brown Bag Books. So it's going to be a whole zone dedicated to children's books, to activities for children's, and to activities for parents so that they can really transmit the love of reading to their kids. We will have a zone that will have a mini stage called the Poetry Corner and the Desert Literary Showcase. So that's a zone where a space where young poets and local authors can read out and interact with the public who have questions about their art, their craft, and we will have a section for to stage an art expo
Excellent.
where we will be the main theme, one of the main themes is UFO literature. So
Yeah.
during that expo, we will have photos that will be part of Chris Campion's upcoming book called Saturation 70, about the unfinished movie that was directed by Anthony Fuchs in 1972. Chris Campion found a unique, never seen picture of that shooting. They're beautiful. So we will have an art expo that will illustrate our focus on the UFO literature. So all of that will be held in the 29 Palms Community Center.
Okay.
Around that program, we will have three live sessions program. One held at the 29 Palms Inn, where we will have readings and discussions spearheaded by authors who are specialized in the history of 29 Palms. So that program is more about the stories than the actual fact of having books published. So we
Sure.
may have oral history,
Sure.
people who have we may have audio, but it's about the history, the rich history of 29 Palms. At the Old School Museum, we will have our main live session program, which will have several focus. One of them will be Native American narratives. The other one will be UFO literature, eco literature, and romance fiction. And we will have also a special focus on the influence of underground comics in the 70s on
Oh yeah.
today's underground press. So we will pay a tribute to the Women's Comics Collective, which was a group of women who published in the early 70s a magazine called Women's Comics that was very, very radical and fought hard for the women's liberation movement. So all of that will take place at the Old School Museum. At the Joshua Tree National Park Visitors Center, we will have a track called Never Underestimate the Desert. And during that series, we will have 3 sessions where we will have architects, designers, botanists, painters, writers who will let the desert speak, and people who have been helping the desert express itself, whether they were writers, painters,
Sure.
geologists, or botanists. So it's going to be very interesting. And in those 3 sessions, there will be one session dedicated to John Hilton, who was a painter, famous painter, gemologist, a writer who lived in 29 Palms. So these are the 3 live programs. We will have a parallel program that we call Shoot in 29 Palms, which will bring together the festival stories that I mentioned earlier with a select group of LA producers who will be coming to 29 Palms to learn more about those stories, meet with the authors, talk with local production talent who could come up with budgets and other information that could help the project be fast tracked. We will have the same crime fiction evening organized with Miltree, the
Excellent.
one that you took part in last year.
Good.
Uh, and the closing party will
Mhm.
be at Más o Menos. It's called entitled Hollywood meets the desert at Más o Menos. So the closing party will also help bring together LA production people with local authors and local production talent. So that's about we so far we already have about 20 authors confirmed. We hope to have 50. Uh, we have
I can I can help you with that.
please. I mean, as I said earlier, that's we're not there yet by far, and we're open. We don't have a fixed number. Our goal is really to provide to each one of them enough visibility to make it worth
Sure.
your while. And we also our goal is really to attract overnight visitors and work with book reading enthusiasts from the lower desert, and also bring out the beautiful city, all the beautiful things that can be done in the sites of 29 Palms.
Excellent. That all sounds amazing, Patrick. All right, good. So first off, last question here, and then we'll kind of close it out. I'll do a little outro and we'll do that. But obviously you're somebody that's been entrenched for a long time in some form of the arts, and here you are embracing it out in 29 Palms as well. So who are some writers, artists, etc., who have influenced or impacted you in your life?
Well, uh, I'm a salesman. I work for this industry,
Right.
and I've always loved art that also has, a certain commercial value.
Sure.
I came to this country when I was 17 because all my childhood and I was influenced by American movies. Uh, so I came to the United States because of the movies, because of stories. I lived in New York because of movies.
Mhm.
Lived in LA for 40 years because of movies. And today I'm in 29 Palms also because of movies.
Right.
Why? Because when I wake up in the morning and I'll see what's around me, I feel I feel that I'm like a movie in a movie, and for me,
Mhm.
whether it makes sense or not, it is very important. So this is really an important driver for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it's a well, obviously, I mean, it's a labor of love for you for sure, and it's excellent. So listen, those of you who are watching, first off, this is very important, and I haven't asked this yet. I apologize. When does this take place, so that everybody
It
knows?
it takes place on from Friday the 8th of November to Saturday the 9th of November,
Right.
so that people can stay until Sunday. They can registration online registration is open. It's free admission. Parking is available. We're also providing discounts to. We are partners with four downtown hotels who
Okay.
provide the discounts. So, and we have one website, 29pbf.com, where all that information is available.
Excellent. Okay. So anybody that's out here, obviously, this isn't taking place till late November. So we're looking at a ways out at this point. But you can hear that there's a whole lot going on this year. 2 days of events all over, a little bit of Joshua Tree, all over 29 Palms. And we've got literature, we've got architecture, we've got artists, we've got Hollywood, we've got everything you could ask for. We've got authors, we've got book signings, we've got readings, we've got panels, we've got everything in between. So if you're thinking of coming out to the desert, come on out, come November. This is going to be an excellent place to be. Patrick is building this thing up to be a monster out there, and that's good. That's a good thing. We need it because besides things like the LA Festival of Books and things like that, there's really not that many big literary events, and we could use it. So it is much appreciated. So Patrick, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hang out for just a minute, and we'll get going here.
All right.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye bye.
In this topsy turvy